And now we are live. So, welcome. My name is Heidi Love. I am your host for Real Life Talk on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm happy to be here with you tonight. I am currently on the big island of Hawaii, and I'm super excited to have this talk because I have my dear friend and co-teacher, Paul Sterling, here, and I'm excited to have him on the call. I always love teaching with Paul. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Well, they say that you teach what you need to learn. And I started out as a relationship disaster. And what they say is every master starts out as a disaster. And so I could either become a monk or join the path to mastery. I won't say that I've mastered. Mastered sounds like there's a destination. That's like I went to the gym the other day and I got a certification that I'm physically fit and I never have to go back to the gym again. I've reached that goal. And people have that kind of story in their head that somewhere you reach that in relationships, that you never have to do any more work. And I'm in that process. In fact, I ended up writing a book about it. Argue Less, Love More became a bestseller. And I wrote it mainly because working with clients, there was this big question of what triggers my partner. How come we go from having a great conversation to having it fall apart? And so that's the book is really about 5 key areas to avoid triggering each other and having communication fall apart. And so Heidi, thank you for inviting me here. And this is my lifelong journey. I started with studying with Tony Robbins probably 30 years ago and ended up working for him, and then studying with Marshall Thurber, Marshall Rosenberg,
He studied a lot with me.
Yes, Heidi's wisdom, Byron Katie. It's been an ongoing journey, and I have clients from around the world, and it's an ongoing, challenging experience.
So, Paul, you mentioned your book, and I'm stoked that you brought that up. I love Paul's material, and I love teaching with him. Like I said earlier, I think that Paul, if I had to describe him, is the computer systems genius of relationship. He takes complex relationship problems and puts it into a system in which we can create something different. And I love things broken down in a way that I can deal with them. And I've learned so much from Paul over the years. So I'm super stoked that you're here. And I'm going to put on the banner across the bottom. And are you still letting people get a free copy of your book? Is that something they can do?
They can get a free copy. They put in their name and email, and yes, they will get an occasional email from me. It's very rare. In fact, I'm under emailed. And you mentioned about my pictures of the model, so maybe sometime during the call I'll share my picture or the model I've created after 25 years of working on it. I do have sort of the brainiac way of looking at relationships. And I do speak also, I was a commercial fisherman for 18 and a half years. How did I do this all in one lifetime? I started very young. I started commercial fishing at 17. So I speak dude. I speak to the masculine and I speak to the feminine. So it's learning how to translate. And we use the same language, but we use it very differently. And so it creates a lot of challenges.
So I want to remind you, if you're on the call, and I want to say hi to Alyssa. I'm so happy you're here and just have enjoyed our time so much together and just appreciate you and glad you're here. I can't see who else is on, but you can talk to us in the comments box in Facebook. So we're streaming live, and if you comment to us, I'm watching it, I can respond to you. You can ask us questions. You can, we love the interaction. It makes it way more fun for us. And tonight we're going to talk about a very touchy topic because I love touchy topics. And we're going to talk about radical honesty. like, what is it? And what does it have to do with vulnerability? And how do we even be honest? How do we create a safe container for honesty? So we're going to cover a lot about honesty tonight. And Paul and I have known each other, I don't know how many years, a lot of years. And I've had to have a lot of different conversations over the years and get vulnerable and honest with each other. And I love that he shared about the masculine feminine, because it is very different. And so we have those differences, but we also have our own wounding around being honest, around showing up in honesty. And I'll share a little bit of that story about myself and how I started out and where I'm at now, because I think it's a great thing. I always preach on these calls is self-awareness. You know, we can't really be in relationship with others unless we're in relationship with ourselves. And the first person we ever have to be honest with is us.
And it's a degree. See, it's interesting. Think about it as like a light switch. It's either on or it's off. And it's like a dimmer switch. You know, I'm an honest person. Well, yeah, most of the time. You know, if the cop says, were you drinking? And you're like, is it okay to actually lie now? Is it when do, you know, and my thing is how much truth can I tell to myself? That's the first thing. How honest can I be with me? And then how honest can I be with other? And what blocks that? What blocks the honesty factor? So, and Heidi, I'm wondering if there's any way to get a little more light on your face, you know, that somehow the.
So I would love that. I'm actually, I was contemplating canceling today. I'm in such okay, so I'm going to be transparent and honest right now with y'all. I didn't want to do today's talk, but I am in transition and been doing a lot of moving, which for a Cancer soul is not so fun. And I'm feeling a bit unsettled. So I'm in an off-grid cabin. It's about 12 by 16. And the only light that I have is solar light. And I was going to go outside, but my computer battery is about to die. And there's no plugins outside. We're on solar. And I have a little bit of plug-in here. So this is about as bright as I'm going to get today. And we are living so off-grid that it's an outdoor shower. Let's see, we have a catchment, so the rainwater. And I won't tell you where I go to the bathroom. Okay. That's my radical honesty.
So I want to ask you, Heidi, just to get the honesty side going, what's the benefits of honesty? What's the benefits of not being honest? Because like if there was only benefits in honesty and no benefits in not being honest, everybody would just automatically be honest. So I want people to look at what's the payoff in not telling the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And why is this a dance? And well, I got a lot of other questions I can ask. Your co-host is becoming the interviewer. So
you can interview me.
What's the payoff in being honest?
The payoff in being honest. I think that one of the payoffs that I love about honesty is I think it gives people choice. So if I'm honest, it gives other people choice to respond, to react, to do whatever with the honest reality of what is going on. I think a payoff for me is that I get the opportunity to be loved. If I'm not fully honest, and again, this is broad because and we're going to go into this, but I'm thinking
I got
some
it.
of the
Question.
So one of the payoffs for me, and I'm thinking of the contrast when I'm with somebody that I truly love and I want to be very, very intimate. So this is not the normal person in the universe, but somebody I want to be really, really, really close to. If I'm not fully honest, I rob myself of the opportunity to be loved by them. It's a huge risk, to be honest. And we're going to talk about what I think is one of the big reasons we're dishonest, but I'm not going to go into that now. So the payoff is if I'm vulnerable and honest, radically honest with this person, and they still love me, which is the big risk, right? I get to be fully loved for exactly what I'm sharing, what I'm unfolding in my current reality, what I am. And if I'm not, then I don't get that. So a big payoff is really being loved by another human being in all that I am.
Okay, so here we're gonna up the stakes, and what I'd love to do is all of the people who are watching in Facebook land, this question is for you. Do you want your partner to be radically honest with you? Yes or no? Just put a yes or no in there, and do that, and it will take a second for it to roll through. And while we're waiting for the answers to roll in here, I'm going to give you an example. See, because we actually teach our partners whether or not to tell us the truth. And I was with my ex-wife, and I'm seeing yes, yes. And I was with my ex-wife and her girlfriend. We were in Hawaii, and this beautiful woman walks by in a bikini, and my wife's ex-wife girlfriend said, "Oh, isn't she beautiful?" I looked over and said, "Yeah, she's amazing." And I looked back, and my wife's friend was in shock, and she goes, "I could never be with a guy that doesn't think I'm the most beautiful woman." And I'm going like, oh, so all you want is guys to lie to you. I didn't say I wanted to sleep with this other woman. I didn't say anything else. She said she's beautiful. I looked, she's beautiful. So it's like, how much truth do you want to hear? So let's take it another step. You could be at a party and you catch your boyfriend, girlfriend looking at somebody else, and you go, "Were you checking them out?" Now, do you want them to say, "You bet. Yeah, I actually had a short fantasy of what it would be like to sleep with them, but that's all it was. I'm back." Now, do you actually want to hear that? Or do you want to hear, "No, honey, I can't, I have only eyes for you." So how much honesty do we really want? And how do we treat our partners when they do reply honestly? So I just wanted to up the stakes a little bit, Heidi. So we're talking about something real that almost everybody's has to deal with.
So we're bringing up things that can definitely trigger, right? That we can be triggered. And I think honesty can go both ways in that instance. First, the person asking the question needs to be honest with themselves. What are they looking for? And are they asking the question that's going to give the response they're really wanting? Because if they're wanting the truth, just to know, what were you thinking? Do you really want to sleep with that person? Are you attracted to other people more than you're attracted to me? Those are very definite questions with definite answers that honesty could be had. But are they using that question and not being honest with themselves, looking for reassurance or looking for a compliment or looking for connection with their partner? And in that case, they're asking the wrong question.
Yeah, my beloved, I don't even know how to describe her. I don't know. She's off in Peru. I don't know if she's coming back to me or not. We have no idea. So that's me being really honest here. But I was careful, and she was careful of what questions we asked each other, in that we pretty much figured the other person was going to be honest. So we tried not to ask questions that we didn't want the real answers to. Like, a question would be, "Am I the best person you've ever slept with?" It's like, that's a bad question to ask if you don't want the truth. And even if you do want the truth, you got to be careful what questions you ask yourself. And Heidi, that was what you just said is a real important distinction there. The difference between making a request for reassurance and asking a real question. Do I want reassurance? Could you tell me that you're attracted to me or that you love me or something, versus, were you checking them out? Mm-hmm. Or am I the most beautiful person in your world? It's like, it's, if you really want honesty, you've got to create a safe space for honesty to happen.
Yeah.
It's a challenging dance.
So before we go into creating a safe space, because I think that would be great information to give people today, like how do we invite honesty? I want to read a comment, and then I want to talk about what I think is one of the biggest things that creates dishonesty. So we have a lot of yeses. We have truth. We have yes, of course I want to hear it. Some of these were even after we gave the higher stakes. And we have hi, yes, that would be refreshing. I find out the truth anyways, and it hurts. I think there's some things that aren't necessarily in need of sharing. There are white lies. No, honey, you're the most beautiful person in the world, LOL. And there are dark lies. No, I'm not seeing anyone else flirting with anyone else or hiding things.
Oh, that
Because
is so.
it's against
Thank
that
you for
argument.
saying that. It's like my mind just hit melt with that one. And thank you for saying that. And thank you, Heidi. But it's like, that is, do we want honesty or we don't? We call it white lies. We call it all the rest of that kind of stuff, and it's like, does white lie mean, oh, these are okay lies, and then there's the not okay lies? I'm go ahead, keep going, Heidi. It's just like I watched that.
So I'm being vulnerable and honest right now. This is a triggering conversation for me. Is it triggering for anybody else? Let's say yes or no in the chat box. Are you triggered, Paul? I'm triggered. So we have more comments. In using caution and asking questions, is it dishonest or self-caring? And it's Karen says, well, Heidi, your laughter is always enlightening. Well, thank you. I love to laugh, and I laugh a lot, even when it's, intense topics, coping skill.
Well, let's answer that question. Is it dishonest or self-caring? I think it's self-caring. I want my partner to be able to tell the truth. And if for some reason I'm not the most handsome person she's been with or the best lover she's been with, that information's not always helpful for me, or it might not be helpful today. So it's better that I don't ask that question, because some things are hard to unsay or unsee. So I want to protect both of us. And sometimes the truth without kindness can just be cruel. My dad was very good at cruel honesty, and he could tell you, well, that your book sucked, or this sucked, or that's, and I'm just being honest. And other people are saying, yes, triggered. yes, triggered.
Yeah. Yes, triggered. I'm triggered in the sense that someone close to me isn't radically honest with me, although it's something very important to me, and that's difficult at times. Yeah.
Well, let me go back to the big picture. Heidi, you and I, this is according to Paul and a lot of other people, but the one reason to be in a relationship is to get your precious needs met. When Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication, says the only reason we ever do anything is to try to get a precious need met. And so we're always prioritizing our needs. And a lot of times, if people are afraid that if they tell the truth, they'll lose the relationship, then it's protecting their precious needs for connection and intimacy, and then they don't tell the truth. And see, that's an important thing to understand, that if someone's not being radically honest, they're trying to meet a beautiful need. I'm not trying to make it okay. I'm trying to understand how humans behave.
Mm-hmm.
And radical honesty is where you're willing to risk it all, because honesty is the priority over the relationship, over connection, over intimacy, over everything. I've made speaking my truth more important. Well, if I look at that, I can't say that I'm there. I want to be. I consider myself an honest person, and I can look at days where the truth hasn't come out immediately, or it's come out slowly. It's painful, And sometimes it's just by avoiding it, not bringing something up. And sometimes it's directly being asked a question and going, not going to answer that now, or I'm going to answer it the wrong way. So I'm trying to be honest about not being honest. How's that? That's pretty.
That's good. I think that I mean, I love these discussions because we, when we talk about honesty, people think black and white and they say, you're a liar, you're not a liar, you're honest, you're dishonest. And when we really get down to it, we're often dishonest with ourselves. And then if we're dishonest with ourselves, we're being dishonest with somebody else. So there's a lot of layers to this. And I want to talk about what's underneath. What are some of the things that keep us from being honest? And I think, in my opinion, fear is one of the biggest ones. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of ad infinitum. So I want you guys to type in the chat box some of the reasons you've been dishonest in your life. Fear of loss, fear of rejection. What are some other fears? I mean, those are my two
I'll
biggest,
give you another one that it's like one of the talks I'm going to do this week is all about dealing with difficult feelings. And a lot of times I can be ashamed. I actually 2 weeks ago interviewed on the Courageous Love show. I interviewed my ex-fiance about jealousy. She wrote a book on jealousy. I can be jealous. I have that fear. And someone can say, are you okay? And what do you say? Like, we can be having a miserable friggin' day and somebody says, how are you? You go, I'm fine. Now, is that telling the truth? No, you're friggin' miserable and you just lied. And that's just like that. Somebody said the white lie. So there's the little white lie. But the other lie is, are you feeling jealous? No, I'm not jealous. She's just being a bitch or whatever it is. I'm not me. Versus I'm terrified that I'm going to lose my partner and I'm so jealous. My stomach's turning. Like, so how honest and how vulnerable can I be? Courageous vulnerability is one of the keystones. Like when you look at relationship, my little diagram, availability, capability, and willingness. Under willingness, it's courage, vulnerability, and compassion. How courageous can I be? How compassionate can I be? How honest can I be with myself about how scared I am? And what am I needing?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read some of these comments really quick, Paul.
Yeah.
Keeping secrets and lies weakens the bond and dilutes the love between people. Fear of abuse, fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood, reason to not be radically honest. I think it's important to talk about safety. Like I'm going to share a little bit of my story, but if I jumped in too soon, Paul, do you want to say anything else on the line that you were saying? Okay. So I grew up in a home where I had one parent that was super safe to tell anything to, and the other parent I perceived as very unsafe. I felt judged. I felt punished. I felt ashamed. I felt like I was going to hell, pretty much. And so what do you think? What do you think I did as a child? Do you think I had the value of radical honesty with both parents? No.
Survival.
Yeah, it was survival. I was very honest with the parent that I felt safe with. I think I told her everything in life. She's passed away now, but I don't think there's anything I wouldn't have shared with her. Sometimes slower, sometimes faster, but I really felt safe. And with the other parent that I didn't feel safe with, I avoided the truth in many, many ways. Now, fast forward as an adult, I've had relationships in which I feel fully safe. And even though it's painful, even though it's scary, if I trust that other person, and we're going to talk about trust too, if I trust that other person is not going to abandon me, even if they're totally triggered, that they can hold space and we can get through understanding each other, even if it's messy, even if it takes time, then I can approach honesty in a different way. And when I feel unsafe, I haven't. Now, because of the other values, so I like that Paul brought in values, because if your value is honesty and that's above everything else, you're just going to be honest and you don't care what the other person thinks. I don't have that as my highest value. I have connection and intimacy as my highest value.
So hold on one second, Heidi.
And jump in.
That is Heidi being honest about her values. And so it's like, where are we honest? And that made you vulnerable, because people could judge you for saying that this is more important than that. So each time that we reveal something, we make ourselves vulnerable. So that was a level you felt safe enough here to express something that could easily be judged. So keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So I love that you brought that up, Paul, because in my past, being judged was terrifying to me. And I still don't love being judged. I like feeling safe. But the things that I'm okay with about myself, I no longer need total safety around, because I'm safe here. And that's, maybe we want to jump in and share about trust. Like the things that I trust myself about and that I've reconciled and that I feel congruent with and okay with, I'm able to share whether you are safe for me or not. Now there's things that I don't feel so great about myself, and those are a lot harder to share unless I'm with someone that's very safe.
Yeah, and sharing it here with just a few friends on the internet's a very safe place. So let's dive into trust, because there's two different levels of trust. One that most people would resonate with instantly, and so I would like to ask everybody, how important is trust in your relationship? You can answer not important, important, very important. So how important is trust in your relationship? And I'll give you, a definition in my mind of what trust is. So trust is, can I trust somebody to keep their agreements? Do they keep their word? Do they respect my boundaries? Do they have my back? Do my needs matter to them? So people are like, ooh, yeah, I can look outside and see that person's trustworthy or not trustworthy. Here is the more important one, which most people don't look at, but Heidi teaches a ton of this when she talks about her codependence and recovery stuff. And it's, do I trust myself in a relationship with you? Or will I give up on my needs? Will I break my word to myself? Will I not keep my agreements with myself? Will I not respect my boundaries? And I can look at relationships where I have been very codependent. I haven't kept my word to myself. I haven't been trustworthy. So am I trustworthy in a relationship with somebody else? Well, sometimes those people seem like they're up here, I'm here, and I give up my relationship with myself to be in a relationship with them.
Have any of you guys given yourself up to be in relationship? And I'm raising my hand, yes. I love that Paul brought this up, because I used to talk, many of us have core wounds, if you want to name them that, and trust issues come up often when I'm working with other people, and trust issues or wounds or whatever you want to name them are something that I've dealt heavily with and still deal heavily with. It hasn't totally changed. And I used to think I need to learn to trust other people. And what I really learned is that I need to learn to trust myself. I need to know that I'll walk away from abuse. I need to know that I will have discernment of my own values and needs, and and base things on that. I need to trust that I won't abandon myself, essentially, in relationship with you.
Can I keep my agreements with myself? And a lot of times, like, it can be subtle and small. It starts with small things. Like, I have a to-do list, and sometimes it's the end of the day, and my end of my day can be 11 or 12 at night, depending on how hard I'm working. And I go, oh, I haven't done something. So sometimes what I'll do is just do even 5 minutes of that project, so that I keep my word to myself and I keep moving that project forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, do you keep your word with exercise, with diet, with all these different places, or do you make these agreements that you don't keep? And that's going to really solidify your relationship with yourself. And when you start to really keep integrity in your word, then you don't give your word out casually. Let's get together sometimes. Oh yeah, let's do that. When you have no intention of ever seeing that person again, you basically have just made a false agreement that you have no intent of following up on. So how important is trust in a relationship, and how does this reflect with honesty?
Are you asking me, or are you asking
Yeah,
them
I'm
to type
asking
something?
you.
I think that trust is super important in a relationship. And as I say that, I've been in relationships where I felt in full integrity with myself in the relationship. And right now I'm in a space in relationship where I don't feel always in full integrity with myself. And it rocks that, do I trust myself in this? So I'm going to ask the audience a question. So in relationship, have you ever been in a relationship where you're like, if this happens, I'm leaving. If this happens one more time, I'm leaving. If I find this out, I'm going. So just type yes or no in the chat box. And these are ways that we break trust. I mean, one of the quickest ways to break trust is to break agreements. And so as Paul was sharing, like when we make an agreement with ourselves to exercise or to get something done, and then we break it, it erodes our trust for ourselves, right? And so there becomes a balance of what can we push our edges on and show up for, and how do we build that rather than break the trust with ourselves.
The other
And
thing,
so, yes, trust is very important to me in relationship. And the more trust I have, the more free the relationship is. The less safety and trust I have, the more constrictive the relationship is.
and the easier it is to be jealous. And the other thing, and I was also thinking, I want to talk about the difference between the sexes for a second, is that there is a difference in this planet between the feminine and the masculine as far as the danger of pissing off your partner. Physical abuse of women is far more severe and often more dangerous than women beating up men. It's not that that doesn't happen. It definitely does happen. But part of dancing with the truth, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Part of dancing with the truth is dancing with danger. Are you going to upset your partner? Are they going to become violent? Are you going to pay a price for being honest? And what price are you willing to pay, and how risky is it? And I taught in prison for 8.5 years, working with inmates from minimum to maximum security, the men's side, the women's side. So it's like learning how to dance with this and make decisions. Are you going to be honest, even though it's dangerous to your health and your personal safety? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not giving you like there's the right or wrong answer. I'm being compassionate with ourselves when we protect ourselves. I grew up in a pretty physically violent family. I know there were a lot worse families. I'm not, but my older brother would beat me until I collapsed at times, and it was tough. And so I can have total compassion for myself if I told a lie to him or didn't tell the whole truth or something to protect my personal safety. So I want to be, what I like about this, Heidi, is that it could seem like there's the right answer. Oh, be radically honest no matter what the cost. And I want to be compassionate with myself and with others so that we can actually wrestle with this and go, oh, when have I not been honest? And what precious need was I trying to get met? And how do I create a safe space in the relationship where more and more honesty can be told and met? And how do I meet my partner when they say something really difficult and scary? Do I meet them with compassion? Or do I meet them with, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have looked at them, or you shouldn't have, how painful it can be.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How do we create safety in relationship so we can create a space for more and more honesty in our intimate partnerships?
Well,
I think,
I'm going to bring up something that you said. He has this, this is a little bit of insight into Paul's way of thinking. There are 7 core relationship skills. And to get to creating a safe space, so the skills here are communication, meeting your needs, dealing with differences. And here's one that I think is really important for what we're talking about: wounds and triggers. The more wounded we are, the more triggerable we are. If we want to create a safe space, we have to heal a lot of the past so that people don't get triggered by casual conversations about money, about sex, about religion, about this, about jealousy, all the rest of it. And can we deal with conflict in a way that's compassionate, or does it terrify us? Because if we're easily triggerable, we got a lot of past wounds, and conflict is terrifying, honesty is going to be a very hard thing to talk about, or it's going to be hard to be honest. And when we can do these things, it starts to build trust. And at the end, we can have intimacy, which people want. And this conversation, a lot of it's been about emotional intimacy. We have emotional, physical, and sexual intimacy. So I just wanted to slide in one of my slides. By the way, if you're watching this, you can take a snapshot of this and then ask yourself on each of these 7 skills. So let me ask you, Heidi, and then we'll switch back to you. Communication, is that a superpower, a strength, a weakness, or kryptonite for you?
On myself.
Yeah.
How I show up in relationship.
Yeah.
A strength.
I would say it's pretty much almost a superpower for you. And I don't know, but I've been around you enough and watch you communicate. So what you can do is go through each of these and go, okay, is meeting needs a superpower, a strength, a weakness? So for me, it's somewhere in between. I'm getting better at it all the time. Dealing with differences, I'm pretty good. Wounds and triggers, and give yourself a relationship report card. Because if you want a remarkable relationship, you need remarkable relationship skills. Before I bounce from that slide, Heidi, do you want to say anything about that sort of report card?
I think it's really important to evaluate ourselves in relationship and to evaluate our relationships. And because it's not to create fighting or create shame. It's basically like taking an inventory that you have in a store. And Paul and I created something very similar a long time ago that was a relationship inventory. What are your assets? Where do you want to grow into? And do you want to grow into those things? And then looking at the other person, if one person cares a lot about communication and the other one, it's kryptonite for them, it's very hard to bridge that gap unless the person with the kryptonite wants to learn the skills to bring it up to a strength, And so really getting honest about these things in our relationship. And are we compatible? Are we a match? Can we meet each other? And I could go on and on and on about needs. I'm really good at meeting people's needs. I love teaching classes on meeting needs, and I'll just get on my tiny soapbox of the spirit of generosity in relationship. That's what I call it. And really learning each other. If you want to feel in love, cultivate happiness, have a long-term love affair with someone, meeting each other's needs is very important. That's all I'll say about that right now.
What I'd love people to do is, before we switch from this slide, is just pick one of these. If you focused on one of these, which one would make the biggest difference in your relationship right now? Is it improving your communication? Is it changing your relationship with your needs, from your needs feeling like a burden to feeling precious? Is it dealing with the differences? Do you need to heal some wounds? Is conflict resolution, or is conflict a kryptonite for you? Is it about building trust, or is it the intimacy? Which one of these, if you could bump one of them up, which one would make the biggest difference in your relationship?
Yeah, type it in the box for us. Type it in the box for us, which one would make the biggest difference. And I had a LOL, leaving would make the best difference. Oh, I hear that. So, Paul, which one is yours? And I'll answer it too. For right now, currently, what one would make the biggest difference for you?
I think probably wounds and triggers. And I see Gina just put that in there too. But I think probably wounds and triggers, because yeah. And I noticed that there's some pain from past relationships that hasn't been healed yet. And it's something that I'm still working on. And Jane said meeting needs would definitely, well, it would be a toss-up between wounds and triggers and needs. And the needs is a three-phase thing: noticing, naming, negotiating. So noticing that I even have needs, having the ability, the list of distinctions. There are 10 core needs that are the 10 top needs. There's a lot more than that, but do I have a vocabulary of needs? Am I aware of them? Do I embrace them? Can I express them? And do I see them as precious, or am I ashamed of having needs? Because for a lot of my life, I thought I was broken because I have needs. And, we consider it an insult. You're so needy. So Heidi, can you call me needy? Give it your most insulting tone there.
Paul, I notice that when I talk to you, you always need something from me, and it's really needy.
Thank you for noticing that, Heidi. And I used to think of needy as an insult, and it's taken me years to make friends with my needs. And it's really, I went through shame and embarrassment, and now I still go through some that sometimes, but I'm really trying to just embrace them. And I need water, and I need food, and I need sleep, and I need sex, and I need communication and companionship. And the truth of the matter, and embarrassing, I need to feel like I'm significant in somebody's life, that I'm a priority, and I need to feel like my needs matter.
I love that. I'm going to type that in the box. I need to feel like my needs matter.
And if somebody's needs don't matter to you, they don't matter to you. And there's a great YouTube video, and I highly recommend people watching it. And it's You Matter to Me. It's a song by Sarah Bareilles. If you put in You Matter to Me, waitress in YouTube, and you can play that song. And I play it with my clients all the time, like especially when they're first signing up and working with me. And each time I hear it, it brings tears to my eyes. You know, and that's what we want in a relationship. We want to know that we matter.
I think in looking at that diagram right now, what would help me the most is communication. Communication, I think, makes such a difference. For me, communication is exciting and you can learn, and I have very good mind framing around communication. And for the person that I like that communication with, they are terrified of communication. Communication in their family of origin was scary and it meant conflict or blood or abuse. And so any kind of uncomfortable communication or deep conversation is scary. And that's hard.
So it's actually a qualifier. I'm going to challenge you a tiny bit. It's not just communication, because my dad could communicate that he thought you were an asshole. So he was communicating, but it wasn't compassionate. So it's having that compassionate, connected communication, because a lot of times the more people talk about something, the worse it gets. So not communicating is safer than communicating. So it's not just communication, but it's how we communicate. And if you think about it, I'm going to bring up another quick slide here. I was back in New York City a couple of years ago, and I was on the subway, and there is 840 miles of track, 472 stations, 27 subway lines. If I want to get from here to here, what did I need to have? Because this is overwhelming.
A map.
Thank you. So the subway is more complicated than I wanted to be, but simpler than I thought it was if I had a what? A map. And so when you think about relationships are more complicated than we want them to be, but they're simpler than we think they are if we have a map. The 2 seconds on the map, this is a map that I've spent 25 years working out. And hopefully you can take a picture of it, a screen capture, all the rest of it. But this is the 3 key areas. The heart set, which is all the talk about feelings, needs, LOL. It's not laughing out loud. It's the language of love. Over here, the skill set is all about how do we clear up the past, connect and get present, create possibilities for the future. The 7 skills we talked about. Over here is your mindset, your ROS, your relationship operating system. Is your operating system set up to support you or sabotage you?
I want to pop in right there, because there's one simple thing that you can, you can take anything you want from today's call, but one simple thing you can take is, if we're talking about honesty and the scary questions of like, am I asking the question that I want the answer to? You can ask yourself, that can be a check-in question. Is what I'm thinking, is what I'm doing, is what I'm asking sabotaging or supporting what I want in my relationship? And start pausing and asking yourself that question and see how much you might be sabotaging or supporting your relationship.
A lot of the mindset stuff is made up of our habits, patterns, and beliefs. That's all unconscious work. That's why it's important to have, well, let me ask everybody out there, how many of you this morning got up and looked at a mirror, adjusted your hair or lack of hair or whatever? Almost everybody needs a mirror because we can't see ourselves without it. The thing is, in relationships, unless we have a coach, a mentor, a therapist, a counselor, somebody outside, it's hard for us to see our reflection of how we're behaving in a relationship. That's why, even though I am and have been a relationship coach for 25 years, I have 2 or 3 different people I go to when I need to see what am I doing in a relationship, when I need that reflection. That is
Mm.
why it's really important to have somebody like Heidi, like me, like, find somebody that, and there's there's a misnomer out there in the world that, like, go find somebody you're comfortable with. No, that's bullshit. Find somebody who challenges you, presses your buttons, has you look at the stuff you're really uncomfortable looking at. You're not hiring a friend. If you
Mhm.
wanted somebody to agree with you, go find a friend. If you want somebody to challenge you, have you grow, have you learn something new, find yourself a coach or a therapist or somebody that can challenge you and help you grow and help you look at your part in this. Because if you're having upsets in your relationship, I'm going to tell a quick story here. I was teaching for the city of Albuquerque. I was a consultant for the city, and most of their top management went through my course. And one of these guys comes in and he goes, I don't need to be here. I'm not the problem. It's my employees that work for me that are the problem. And I looked at him and I said, well, you're right. If you're not part of the problem, you can't be part of the solution. You should go back and send your employees to the workshop and you go back to the office. And he thought about it for me. He said, no, I think I'll stay. And if you think about it, what part of the problem am I in the relationship? What part of the more that I'm part of the problem, the bigger the part of the solution I can be. And maybe the problem is I'm staying in a relationship that I shouldn't be in. So I'm not saying stay in any relationship. If there's abuse, if there's alcoholism, if there's a bunch of stuff going on that's not healthy, I stay, that's my part in it. I'm staying when I should go. So, Heidi, I went on a small tangent there. Handing it back to you.
So we have a question: is there a limit to challenges? And I don't know exactly what you're asking, but I'm thinking that Paul might have just said it, that there are relationships that our part is simply staying in them, and that there are too many challenges to overcome. And it's not that we can't overcome challenges, but we can't control other human behavior. So some of those things that were mentioned, abuse, some alcoholism. I mean, I have left relationships that I didn't want to leave and had to readjust my values because my value of commitment was higher than my commitment to myself and my sanity and my safety. And I had to readjust that in order to relieve the relationship. Um, Yep, he answered it, she said. Okay. And so in thinking about, I lost track what I was saying here because I was reading a comment. You want to read that out loud?
Sure. I would like to collaborate with you in the future, and I certainly have a lot to learn. I want to become a good, sacred, sensual healer, tantric. I wish you a wonderful week. You can actually go to the YouTube. I have a video I made on Tantra and sacred sexuality. It's been seen like 6.1 million times. So definitely get a hold of Heidi or me. I'm very familiar and taught Tantra for years, and Heidi's familiar too. So, and it's part of, for people that want to tie into this, it's one of the ways we communicate with each other. It's being conscious communication and conscious sensuous sexuality. So, all right.
So
And
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, for people, if they want a breakthrough session, if they want to find out where they are, where they want to go, what's in the way, they should have a breakthrough session. If Heidi is the person that you resonate with, spend some time with her.
Say it again, Paul, because you froze.
No, I didn't freeze. You froze.
Oh, I froze? Okay, I froze.
No, I don't know. I was just saying.
Let's get honest here.
Let's get honest. It's your fault. There we go. We've been honest on it. So give yourself the gift of getting a mentor. Like if somebody was playing golf and they had a problem with their golf swing, they'd have no problem going and taking a course or getting a coach or taking a training. It's like it's the same thing here. Turn decades into days and follow a trail versus cutting a path. If Heidi is somebody you resonate with, go spend a little bit of time with Heidi, set something up. If I'm somebody who challenges you and you think you can learn and grow from, go to arguelesslovemore.net. Rather than free book, put in clarity and set up a session. And it will spend about a half an hour together. I'll get a survey from you in advance. So it's a 3-part thing. There's a survey, you watch a video, and you schedule a time. And we'll go through that, and it can transform the way you look at relationships. I have turned around relationships that where there's been affairs, betrayals, jealousy, broken agreements, all the rest of it. And I've also helped people when it's over to divorce with dignity, that they don't try to destroy each other and ruin everything that was good about each other, but they let go with caring and compassion and healing. So, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for putting that all out there. We both do those sessions, and they are complimentary because we like to see if we're fit. It's not, I know I don't love to work with people who aren't ready or want to do the work, and I don't think Paul does either. So it's a time for us to get to know each other, to see where you're at, where you want to go, and if it's a fit. And I really encourage you to take us up on the opportunity. His website's right there. You see the /clarity. Mine's scrolling across the bottom. My number's on there. You can fill out a contact me page and I will get a hold of you, or you can text or call me directly also. And we thank you so much for being with us today. And Paul, I'm delighted that you got to be here. I always feel so happy teaching with you, and just love sharing back and forth. And I always learn so much from you too. I love that. I love learning and sharing. And it's always shocking to me, the differences in the masculine, feminine. And I think we bring that out in each other.
So I'd like to end on a request for people. Heidi and I do this. Part of it meets a precious need of ours to contribute. And one of the ways that we know that we've contributed, if you could let us know, not just thanks, and we appreciate the thanks, but what did you get? One thing you got from today, that would be really helpful if you could type that in. And if there's people that you think would get something from this, you can tag their name and they can watch it on the replay. So thank you so much. Thank you, Heidi, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for the insightful, vulnerable, powerful questions, the authenticity. It's a really precious thing to wrestle with. Honesty, trust, and values, communication, getting your needs met, all of these things. Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And we'll be here next Tuesday, Real Life Talk at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Share with your friends, let people know about it. And Paul does several talks per week. You can also find that on his website or the Love Coach Academy website. We're here for you every week. So we'll see you again soon. Take care.
Yeah, it's the Courageous Love Show, Thursdays at 6 and Sundays at 4. Ciao.
Okay, bye.